Landlords, did you receive an email invitation from the SBA asking you whether you wanted to apply for the Targeted EIDL Advance? And did you think that you weren't eligible to apply because you don't live in a low-income community? Well, there may be a way for you to qualify using your property's address if that property is located in the low-income community, even if you didn't use that property address as your principal place of business on your original EIDL loan application. I'm going to explain how you might be able to do that in this video. Coming up. Hey guys, if we're just meeting, my name is Vitaly Volpov. I'm a practicing attorney, an active real estate investor, and a part owner of a real estate brokerage in upstate New York. On this channel, I discuss relevant legal concepts as well as best strategies and tips for real estate investing and personal finance. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that YouTube notifies you of all my future content. If you enjoy the content in this video, hit the like button and comment down below. And as always, whenever I'm discussing legal or financial topics, just remember, nothing that I say in this video should be construed as legal or financial advice. I provide this information for educational and entertainment purposes only, and you should always consult with your own attorney and your own advisor before making any legal or financial decisions. Last but not least, the views and opinions that I express in this video are my own alone and do not necessarily represent those of my law firm or any of my business partners. Alright, so before I show you how to submit this application, I just want to make sure that you are eligible in the first place to apply for it. So the Targeted EIDL Advance is only available right now to those applicants who either previously applied and received a partial EIDL grant or advance, or those who applied before December 27, 2020 and did not receive it because the funding had run out. If you were denied for any other reason, or if you didn't apply previously and you never received an EIDL partial grant, you would not be eligible for this program, this application right now, and so you wouldn't be able to apply. And so this video is not for you. In addition to that, there are additional criteria that you have to meet in order to be eligible. The first one is that you must have fewer than 300 employees. I assume that most of you watching this, if you're a landlord, you likely don't have 300 employees or more, or you probably wouldn't be watching this video. The second eligibility criteria is that you had to have had a loss in your revenue of at least 30%, and I think it needs to be more than 30% over an 8-week period after March 1st, 2020, as compared to a comparable 8-week period before March 1st, 2020. I'll get into more about how to figure that out, and there are other videos on YouTube that talk about this in great detail, so you guys can check those out there if you don't think that my explanation is clear enough. But I'll try to make it clear and we will talk about it. And finally, the last category is that you need to be located in a low-income community. And in this case, if you are a landlord, then what we're talking about is your property, your rental property, would need to be located in a low-income community. And again, the SBA provides us with a way to check that, and we'll get into that as well. But if your primary residence or whatever address you put down on your original application is not in a low-income community, but your rental property is in a low-income community, there may be a chance for you to qualify for this additional EIDL grant funding. I can't guarantee that the SBA will approve it. All I can tell you is that I'm trying to do it this way. I spoke to 2 different reps at the SBA yesterday. They basically told me, go ahead and apply. You want to make sure that all of the information you're providing the SBA is truthful, and as long as you're doing that, you should be fine, and the worst thing that can happen is that the SBA will say no. I think you should also be prepared to show that you actually own the property, and you may be asked for a deed to the property showing your ownership and when you purchased it in order to support this application. So with all that said, let's jump into the application itself. All right, so the place where you're going to want to start is the email that you received from the SBA. If you did not receive an email, that means that you're not eligible yet to apply. From what I've heard and from what YouTubers like Jason McElhone are saying right now is that every single person who previously applied is receiving these email invitations to apply. And so if you are a landlord who previously applied, you will have received, or you're going to receive at some point in the near future, this invitation request. So it looks just like this. I have blurred out my application number, but essentially would look exactly like this. And so you would read it, obviously, and then scroll down to the bottom where there is a green button you can click on that says Targeted Advance Application. You're going to want to click on that, and that'll launch the SBA's portal. Okay, so the portal looks just like this, and the first thing that this portal will ask you for is the tax ID number or the Social Security number that you used in order to submit your original application. So I'm going to go ahead and put my number in here, and we'll go on to the next page. The next page looks like this. You're going to want to read all the information that is provided here, and then you will want to answer the eligibility questions. You pretty much have to answer no to all of the questions in order for you to be eligible, except for the first one, which asks about citizenship or resident status. In that one, you're going to have to answer yes, or else you won't be qualified. Again, if any of the answers to these questions are yes, you're probably going to be disqualified. So obviously answer them truthfully, but if the answer to any of them is yes, you may be disqualified, so just keep that in mind. And in response to question number 23, you need to put down how many employees your company or your business has. And this should include yourself and any partners that you have in your business. Once you've answered those questions, you should click continue, and that will take you to the next page. Now, this is the most important part of this application process that you need to make sure you do right. You will see that there is an edit button next to each one of these little windows with the information that you previously submitted to the SBA. It allows you to make edits to this information. So what I am doing is I am changing the address that I originally provided, which was the address for my business partner, and I am changing it to a rental property which this particular LLC owns. The LLC is a real estate holding company which uses a P.O. box for all of its mail. So we don't actually have a physical office anywhere except for the property itself. So I think it's reasonable for the principal business address to actually be the rental property itself. Now, when we were filling out these applications back in March of 2020, there really weren't any instructions on how to do this for landlords. And so it was pretty much a trial and error free-for-all at that time. So here, the SBA is allowing us the opportunity to edit the address that we used. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're using a real address for a property that you actually own. In this case, we've owned this property for the last 3 years, and we've been using it, and that has been the property that is generating all of our revenue as well as all of our expenses. So I think it's justified and reasonable for me to use this property address, but we will see what the SBA actually has to say when they process this application. I wanted to share this with you guys because I think a lot of landlords right now are in a lot of trouble because tenants aren't paying rent, their revenue has gone down significantly, and rental assistance is nowhere to be seen. As I mentioned in some of my other videos, rental assistance is being delayed and is being limited in many different ways all across the country in different states, counties, and cities. And so this is just another possible way for landlords to obtain relief, which they so badly need. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the primary business address fields and replace the information that is there now with the information for our rental property. And like I said, before you do this, you're going to want to make sure that your rental property is actually located in a low-income community. The way you would check whether your property is located in a low-income community is through the tool that is provided by the SBA in the same email that contained that button which we clicked on initially to get into the application portal. So if you go back to the email, you will see that there is a link to an interactive map where you can put the address of your property and it will tell you whether or not it's located in a low-income community. So if we go ahead and do that, the map looks like this. And purple areas are low-income community areas, and all other areas are going to be outside of low-income community. If your property is located in an area which is shaded light gray, that means that there is insufficient information to determine whether it is a low-income community or not. And the SBA has additional instructions, and you may want to contact the SBA, or you may just want to submit the application anyway and let them make the determination, but it's not going to be clear just from this map whether or not you qualify. And I think in that case, you probably should just submit the application and let the SBA make the decision. So let's just say that the address that you originally put on your application is your home address, and let's say in this case, it's 140 Broadway, Menands, New York. I'm just picking a random address from my area, and you can see that The map is showing you where this is located, and it is also saying that it is not located in a low-income community. There's a no right there. But let's also say that you own a rental property which is located at 40 Broadway, Albany, New York. So I'm just going to change the address, and we're going to search for that and see what comes up. And it shows you that that property is located in a low-income community. So that property would be eligible as far as the location criteria goes, and so that would give you an indication that you may want to proceed with this application. So I went through this exercise with the property that I'm submitting this application for, and it showed me that it was located in a low-income community. And so I'm submitting this application in the hopes that the SBA will approve it. So let's go back to the application portal, and you just need to click on the yes button that basically says that information that you put in above or that you changed above is accurate. And once you do that, you just click continue, and it will take you to the next page. This is the last page of this application. So the first thing it will ask you for is your phone number. So you go ahead and put that in. And then it will ask you for information about your revenue. This is your gross revenue broken down by month in each of these years that are listed in this table. And so the trick here is that in order for you to qualify from a loss of revenue perspective, you need to show that your revenue has dropped in 2 consecutive months. So starting with the month of March, if you can see on my screen, the month of March in the year of 2020. And so it can be the month of March and April, or it can be April and May, or it could be August and September. 2 consecutive months that you need to have a drop in revenue of 30% or more as compared to either the months of January and February of 2020 or the corresponding 2 months of the prior year, so fiscal year 2019. So if your revenue loss occurred in August and September of 2020, let's say, you will need to either show that you had 30% more revenue in the months of January and February as compared to August and September, or that you have experienced a loss in revenue of 30% or more as compared to August and September of 2019. So as you fill these out, and you have to fill every single one of these months out, so you're going to need to make sure you have your revenue information, you need to go back to your bank statements, whatever you need to do, you need to make sure that the information you're putting in here is correct. And the way I think it makes sense for you to do it is, if you're a landlord specifically, because that's who this video is for, is for you to just go through your records and see what your gross revenue was, your gross rent was for the months in question, and just fill them in. And then see if you will qualify if you actually had a reduction in your gross revenue of 30% or more in the months following March 1st of 2020. If you do, and if your property is located in a low-income community, you may be eligible for an additional $8,000 or $9,000, depending on how much of an original EIDL grant you received. You may be eligible to get that additional money up to $10,000 from the SBA. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this table out as it pertains to my property, and then I'm going to scroll down, and you need to select that you certify under penalties of perjury that what you're submitting is true and accurate. Again, you want to make sure that you're providing the SBA with accurate information, and then you select what type of tax designation your entity has. In my case, this is an LLC, which is taxed as a partnership, so that's what I would select, but you will want to select whatever applies to your situation, and then you would click that you're not a robot, and then you would click submit, and you're pretty much done. The last step of this will be that the SBA will review what you submitted. I think it's an automated system that does it, and then a few minutes later, you should receive either a rejection because either you did not meet the revenue qualifications or your property wasn't located in a low-income community, or you will receive an email asking you to go to the next step, which is just electronically signing a form which will allow the SBA to obtain your tax return information from the IRS. Again, I don't know whether or not the SBA will agree with this methodology and whether or not it will actually grant us any additional EIDL targeted advance funds, but it seems that there's a chance because they're allowing you to change the address. And if you're a landlord in the same situation as us and you used your home address when that really isn't your primary place of business, and maybe you own an LLC, then perhaps it makes sense for you to submit this application amending your address and seeing if the SBA will grant you some additional funds to help you weather this current pandemic. So with that said, guys, I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. Let me know if you have applied for your Targeted EIDL Advance, whether or not you're going to try this method. Again, this is not legal advice. I'm not telling you that you should do this. I'm not guaranteeing success. I think you should make your own decision. Listen to what I'm saying here, but make your own decision as to how you should act. So with that said, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.